Hi, Nerd here. So I'll be doing a video that I think is very much overdue, and it'll be a bit of a recap of my trip to SGDQ 2017. I figured I might as well do it now, because I actually didn't have the idea to do it until very recently, and SGDQ submissions are coming up pretty soon for SGDQ 2018. So I figured I'd get this out of the way before I start thinking about how my trip to SGDQ 2018 will go. So I went to the event on July 7th, and I got there about 7 p.m. It's about a 9 to 11 hour drive from where I live in Illinois. And like with SGDQ the previous year, I was really excited. Because, you know, particularly with this SGDQ, because I actually had a run-in this time. The previous year during SGDQ 2016, I was just an attendee, but this time I actually had a run-in, which, as you can probably see by this still screen here from the VOD of my run, is the Mater D with the any percent category. So anyways, as soon as I get in the hotel, I get in my room and I go to the front desk to get my runner badge, which was a really cool design, by the way, with the picture of Bowser. And I went to the marathon room and took a picture of it. Now, unfortunately, I can't show the pictures of the event that I took on video with this video because I don't have those pictures saved in my computer. I just have them on my phone and I'm lazy to set a capture up. But did that, and I met up with a speedrunner named Jim Freak, who unfortunately isn't speedrunning anymore, but he's still a pretty cool dude. So I met up with him, and we actually did a race of Pokemon Pearl any percent, where he ended up beating me. And then after that, I did runs of the Mater D, no reset runs, rather, as practice in the PC room. And I actually ended up getting a PB, which at the time was a 5:35. So practice went pretty well, considering I got a PB. And then about 3 hours after I got to the event, the Final Fantasy VII run started. And I was a bit worried about my sleep schedule before my run, because I didn't want it to be a situation where I ended up sleeping past the start time when my run was supposed to happen. But I didn't want to get into that type of situation, but I also still needed sleep, of course. So I ended up getting a very little amount of sleep. I think I only got like 5 hours of sleep. But I was still awake, so that's good. And I still had enough energy to do the run fairly well, actually. The run itself went very well. So as soon as I get up, I go to the practice room. It was about 4 a.m. by this point. And I went to the private practice room, which, by the way, is where the runners go to practice before their run. And I met up with another speedrunner named Bullets, or Is Bullets. And he showed me the Super Hot run and explained some things about it. And I also practiced the Mater D a little bit on the other PC in that room. And I also met up with another runner named Psycho Ripper, who actually did a run of the Rise of the Triad with the 2013 remake that happened right after my run. Side note, shoutouts to Psycho Ripper, by the way, for that run. Rise of the Triad is a really entertaining game as a speed run. I may eventually learn it at some point, but that's a future project for a later time, along with another run that I saw that I'll mention later. So yeah, I practiced for I think about an hour and a half, and then just waited in the main lobby until the Final Fantasy VII run was over, and then I went to the PCs, of course, to set the run up. So a little, I guess one thing I want to know before I actually play the VOD here and commentate over the run and explain what things and tricks went wrong. The main complaint I have about my commentary with this run is I feel like I talked a bit too fast. It's a really bad habit that I have in real life too. It was especially bad with this run. So I felt like my commentary could have been better in that regard, but I felt like it went pretty well. A lot of the people that I talked to that watched the run seem to think it went pretty well too, and they actually enjoyed it quite a lot. And I have the VOD turned down a little bit here, so I can actually commentate over it.
Alright, so I wasn't sure how I was going to follow up Final Fantasy VII, but I guess this is how we're doing it.
One other quick thing to note before I play the run here is I originally wanted to have two other couch commentators, a speedrunner who is actually one of my best friends currently online named Azoro. I originally wanted him to be on couch, but he couldn't attend because there was another event or another convention he wanted to go to, and the dates of that convention ended up overlapping with the dates for SGDQ, so he couldn't come, which is a shame, but that wasn't too big of a deal. There was another speedrunner I wanted to have on couch named Boix, but he couldn't come to SGDQ either. So it ended up just being a solo couch with me and Jim Freak. But I ended up commentating a lot of the run myself anyways, so it wasn't that big of a deal that about 2/3 of my couch couldn't show up. So anyways, let's actually play the run here, and I'll commentate over both what went well and what went wrong in certain spots.
And on my couch behind me, we have Jim Freak. And of course, this is the Mater D. I like to call it a hybrid between a puzzle game and a platformer, and both of those elements will become apparent as the game goes on. And this title screen should be an indicator that we're in for a wild ride here. And we're good to go in 3, 2, 1, go.
So these first few levels are pretty straightforward, so it didn't go that badly. The tech staff ended up starting the timer a few seconds late, but they fixed that at the end of the run after I called time. So the commentary overall was pretty decent in my opinion. I felt like I did well explaining things, but I felt like with my explanation of the mechanics here, I could have made it a little less wordy.
There's a little thing you can do with the retract mechanic where you can jump while you're retracting, and that's a mechanic in the game, but we can exploit that mechanic for jumps that we're not really intended to get. Now become more.
I also bunny hop here in these first few levels. I don't really know if it actually saves time. I just do it out of force of habit. There were a couple of levels in this early section that went a little lopsided though. Like this level where I missed the extension onto the table there a couple of times. But it's really hard to optimize movement in this game. I don't even think my 516, which is the current world record in my PB, is that optimal. It can definitely be a lot better and pushed way farther than I have by this point. I almost fell on the spikes there in the previous level as well, so I almost died. And when you die in a level in this game, you have to go way back to the beginning of the level, and you have to redo the entire level over again. That did end up happening once during this run, but it doesn't cost too much time at all because of how short the levels are in this game. I felt like I explained the jump trick, as I'll call it, fairly well. I haven't given the technique an actual name, so I'll just call it jump tricking. for all intents and purposes. I did end up grabbing one extra lotion there, but it wasn't in waste time at all.
Okay, never mind.
And that's where I ended up dying on accident.
Dying in this game is pretty bad because if you die in a level, you have to redo the whole level over again, which is not necessarily that fun. Anyways, I was saying this level is probably one of the more fun levels for me because I really like the platform.
Yeah, that level went a little lopsided, but outside the death, it was fairly decent. I did.
One other thing I also
On the second customer, though, I failed to get the extension.
or no, not that, but you can.
And I tripped myself up here trying to explain the, so call it the quick retract, right here.
Cancel it by retracting.
Or retract cancel, I guess. I don't have names for a lot of these tricks, I just do them. So this jump went fairly well. I only missed it once, and I ended up getting its second try. I feel like the rest of the levels after that went pretty well. So, I guess the next time I'll talk about how I felt during the run. Going into the run, I was actually pretty nervous, because, of course, this was my first GDQ run I've ever done, and I had commentary in mind, but I wasn't sure. Still wasn't quite sure how I wanted to explain everything. So I just went ahead and did it when it came time to do my run. I think it turned out fairly well, but I think I could have explained some things a bit better, as I mentioned before I played this VOD.
This level isn't too bad, in all honesty. Just have to get to these customers and get to the end. Level of the game,
and now we're pretty much at the end. This is a very straightforward level where we just quick extend through these little gaps here. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the tech staff started the timer a couple seconds late, but they adjusted for that soon after I called time. So one quick thing I do want to note, by the way, is I don't think I mentioned this on Twitter when the games list came out, but right when the games list came out, which, by the way, my PB at the time was way slower, it was a 937, the developers found out about that, and one of the developers, whose name, I believe is David, or not David, but Dave, one of the developers, of course named Dave, decided to speedrun the game, and he ended up getting, I forget what time he has, I think he has an 8:33, I believe it is. And soon after the games list was revealed, I think it was about a couple of weeks after, I ended up finding the movement tech that I did in that run, the jump trick, as I called it when I was explaining things in my commentary over this VOD, and I ended up destroying that developer's time. And it I think my marathon performance of this was a very special one for that reason. Because a developer of the game not only shouted me out for speedrunning their game and getting the game in the marathon, but also speedran the game themselves as a result. And I don't know. Just a really fun time when that ended up happening. Not really sure how to explain it in words. I guess I just felt joy at getting that kind of attention from a game developer of the game that I run. There's just something special about that, getting a shout out from the developer of the game that you love and run. It's just not really anything I can really explain. So anyways, there's a glitch showcase that I did after this, because one of the incentives I submitted with this run that ended up getting accepted as an incentive was to showcase an out-of-bounds glitch that I found alongside this movement tech that I showed off. And when I found it, I was very surprised that the maitre d' was this broken. So I thought, hey, this will be a funny thing to show off. And I think honestly it's the best part of the run because it just looks really goofy. So we'll play that really quick here. I'll skip ahead to when I actually got to the level where I showed off the glitch. Just really quick. And I did explain the glitch well beforehand. So I actually got this clip into the ceiling very quickly. I was afraid that it would take me quite a while to get it. So it was good that I got it fairly quickly here.
And the reason for that is because clipping out of bounds in this particular level causes Waiter Sprite to mess up, like you can see here, such that he ends up looking like a bit like a worm. And so there's nothing we can really do here because there's no way to clip back into the level. So the only way to go from here is to go out the side and fall into oblivion. And we're pretty much soft locked to this point. There's nothing we can really do. We can mess around with the extension mechanic a little bit, but there's nothing we can really do past this point. Alright, so that's the maitre d'. Hope you enjoyed that.
Alright. I just noticed the cursor in the top right of the game window there. That probably annoyed a lot of people watching, but hey, whatever. It's actually a running theme throughout the event where runners would have the cursor in the top right of the window if they were running a PC game. It just became a running gag throughout many PC game runs during the event. So, that run went pretty well, but I felt like I could explain certain things better. So yeah, after that run, I'll talk about what happened after I did that run. So, after I finished that run, actually, Voyagen, who was one of the GDQ staff and also a fellow speedrunner, came up to me as soon as I got off the computer and was about to head to the PC room to play some games with Gym Freak. He came up to me and said, while he was laughing out loud, I'm really glad we accepted this game into the marathon. And to be frank, I agree with him, because it's a very silly and very fun game. It's a very good speedrun too, but it's really, really hard. I'm fairly good at it, but it's really hard. And I say that as a person that adapted to the game very quickly, given how not often I run this game. So yeah, that happened, and I went to the PC room to fool around a bit more. I also met up with a speedrunner who actually had 2 runs in the event, Portal and Half-Life. He goes by the name of Alex Howie, or just Alex Howe, I think. Not sure how I pronounce it, so I'll go with the second pronunciation I said. There, and we just chilled around watching the stream during the Super Mario 64 and Super Pang World runs, and we chilled on these beanbag chairs. There was this main lobby where there was this huge group of tables where people were playing board games. And next to that group of tables was a set of beanbag chairs, and me and Alex sat on those and chilled and watched the stream. And then once Breath of the Wild was about to start, I went to the marathon room and sat in the audience with Jim Freak. And the experience I had watching that run was something else, especially given that I had not watched a Breath of the Wild run before that. So essentially, as a viewer, I was going in blind, not knowing what to expect. And boy, was it something. The one particular thing I want to highlight is all of the various stasis launches, is what they're called, that Orchestra, the runner of that run, did. And the final fights of that run were intense as well, given that you pretty much can't make any mistakes or you die, because every attack kills you in one hit, as far as I'm aware, with the any percent kind of completion. And there's a particular moment during that run where Orchestra was riding on a horse to get to the end game location, which is Hyrule Castle, and she had to avoid these enemies called Guardians. And there were some shenanigans that ended up happening where she almost got killed by those Guardians, but ended up escaping and then died anyways a few seconds after. And that was probably the best part of the entire run, just because of the roller coaster of emotions that ended up occurring during that. Definitely one of those oops moments. I don't know if that's a never happened before kind of moment, but it's definitely up there. So yeah, I just wanted to do that quick little video, and by quick I mean 22 minutes, but still relatively quick. Video talking about my SGDQ 2017 trip. Or one last quick thing to mention is I did stick around for the Portal 2 run, and they ended up actually giving out free Twitch shirts to the audience, and I still have mine from the event. I wear occasionally. So yeah, that's my little recap there. So for SGDQ 2018, submissions open in about a couple of weeks. They open on March 2nd, and so does the registration, I believe. I believe they open at the same time as submissions, but I may be wrong. I already have quite a large group of games that I want to submit. In particular, I'm really hoping Outlast gets in. I've been submitting it for the past couple of years, and both times it's gotten rejected. So I'm really, really hoping I get the game in this time. If not, then I can just keep trying, but I know at some point I'll probably get tired of it and just give up. But hey, man can try, can't he? So anyways, I have that planned for SGDQ. This year at least. I definitely plan to attend SGDQ yearly, as I've already done that so far for the past couple of SGDQs. And hopefully I get a game in this year again. So yeah, that's my little recap. Hope you enjoyed that.